Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Human Accelerator. It is your host, your guide, and your ally on this journey, Alexander Fairman, aka F Serpent, here in week 3, Solar Plexus Mastery. So, first off, I just want to apologize to you guys because the internet speed here in the country of love is not very good. It is rather shit, and it is not good for us to do this live, but we are going to make this work. I just got a little bit German. So, we want to go into this week and what it means to master the area of our solar plexus. And I'm going to go through that. We're going to explain more about this chakra, go deeper into the understanding of its dynamics, of its relationships with the other chakras. And we are going to talk about how we can actually build our identity, how we can actually develop an ego identity that we are excited about, that we can be consistently aligned with, and that this is actually the secret to professional success. Yes, the root chakra and your work ethic and your ability to set boundaries is important for success because it brings the energy into the body. And yes, the sacral is important because it has to do with emotions. And without joy, you're certainly not going to be able to sustain what you're doing. If you hate your job, you're not going to be good at it. I don't care. You're not going to be the best at it if you hate it. You have to love it. Passion has to be part of it. But in order to be visible and successful and to create for yourself a brand, this is very, very important. And simply to feel that you have purpose and strength as an individual separate from others, this is where it all happens. This is where we create the ego. So without further ado, let's get started then. First, I want you guys to recap in the chat in Facebook, how was last week? Were you able to get more honest about the feelings you have, the uncomfortable feelings? Were you able to admit them to yourself and others, even if they caused some friction? Were you able to get more in touch with where joy is for you? Right? How was the dancing? Did you do it? Were you able to do it? Right? Keep yourself accountable. Check in one way or another. So important. And we want to hear more about that. And I'll be speaking to you in the chat forum more. As with every week in the accelerator, I'm going to reiterate this. You are in the most advanced vehicle for consciousness on this planet. The human body is extraordinary. And because of that, the answers are within you, not outside. The more you can understand what you're doing with your energy and redirect your thoughts and emotions and intentions in new ways, the more you have the ability to access the full power of who you are. It's not found out there, it's found in here. And creating a new possibility requires sustained intention and action. Like I've said, if your whole life you've been doing a certain action, or you've been telling yourself that you're an identity that's not really inspiring to you, or you've been telling yourself that you're not enough, then it's going to take some consistent action to program and build in a new identity that feels real for you. Right? And that's what this week is going to be all about. Okay, so the solar plexus chakra. Let's dive in here. I want you to take a moment and go ahead and put your feet on the floor, flat on the floor, sitting upright in your chair, taking a deep breath in and letting go. Another deep breath in and letting go. One more deep breath in. Letting go, bringing your attention into your belly. Breathing in. Feeling your abdomen, feeling your stomach. Notice if there's any tension there. Breathing out. Breathing in again. Feeling if you've been overworked, perhaps you've been drinking lots of coffee, you may notice tension in this area. But we just want to bring relaxation and opening, expansion to this area of the body. The solar plexus, also known as the house of your soul. and feel your connection to your authentic identity, who you truly are, who you want to be in this world. And imagine yourself glowing with a bright golden yellow hue all around your body. Open your eyes. Let's continue. The solar plexus chakra, the Sanskrit name is Manipura, which means jeweled city. Jeweled city. And what a beautiful metaphor for the place that is the home of your soul. To think of yourself, that part of yourself that is the ego, that is the identity you've chosen as a jeweled city, to make this part of yourself sacred as you would a holy city. And so this corresponds to your ego center. It corresponds to your identity, your sense of selfhood, your personal power, your will. Of course, the color association is yellow gold. And it is strongest in those who are leaders and those who are shameless about expressing and influencing who they are and sharing that with the world. So CEOs, you'll see, will walk into a room with an air of command and confidence, and everyone in the room turns and seems ready to listen and obey what they have to say. Now, some lead by power and force, and they use the strength of their solar plexus chakra to compel others regardless of their own will. But others use it to authentically radiate leadership and to give off an air of command that seems natural and inspires others to follow them and to do what they believe we should do, based on that natural inspiration, not based on the use of force or a use of hierarchy, which would take it down to the root chakra level. Rather, there's an authentic inspiration that happens here in the solar plexus. And that is what we're going for. This is a masculine chakra. So whereas the sacral is receiving and feeling, this is about projecting your will, your intentions, your identity out into the world. And think of yourself lit up like a sun, shining in all directions, feeling awesome about who you are and ready to share that with people, right? Nothing shy about the health of this chakra. It is here to shine and is here to be bright. It can own and embrace in a healthy way, showing off who you are. Because if you don't show up and show off, the world will not know, right? People don't know. That's why we have to put ourselves out there. And that is the power here. And when we think of the house of the soul, right? What a beautiful metaphor. And I wanted you to think of yourselves as these jeweled cities right now, like a jeweled city's inside of you. That within you is so much riches, so much splendor and glory, and it's okay to admit that to yourself and to own that. Even if it seems like far-fetched that you could have such a beautiful part of your soul that's yours, that is this resplendent, I want you to start imagining it this way. Because the more you imagine it, the more it will be so. So let's get something straight right off the bat. The ego is not bad. In the spiritual community, if you guys have been around the spiritual or New Age community, there's a lot of talk about transcending the ego, so on and so forth. But for all my seeking, from having read a great many spiritual texts and had some practical experiences and seen what people are doing to themselves when they try to transcend the ego, it's not healthy. The reality is that these are the 7 chakras, right? It's not the one chakra of the crown or the higher self. The ego is important. And the ego is here to give us some solidity while we're alive as human beings. The ego gives you a sense of self. And if you take away the ego and you try and identify yourself with the infinite or with the everything, you miss that essential separateness which is important. We are not here, my friends, to be part of the cosmic soup, right? We're not here to be one with everything while we're in a body. The point of coming into a body is to separate yourself, give yourself a reference point for being unique. And the ego is all about being different from other people. The root, the sacral, all tribal societies operated off of these 2 basic chakras, and of course the heart. But it was one tribe. It was one group consciousness. And to veer off from the tribe and to be different was equivalent with death in the old world, right? And so the ego is formed when you start to develop a unique identity outside of your parents, outside of your friends, different from the culture you grow up in, and an expression of your authentic self. The ego is not bad. The ego is healthy. It needs to be strong enough to weather the difficulties and the challenges of our lives. Right? So life is going to hit you, and if your ego is not strong, what's going to happen? You're going to fold. If the ego isn't strong, when someone criticizes you, you're going to think you need to listen to them because you're trying to operate from your second chakra of gaining their approval instead of standing in the power of your third and your purpose and your identity, right? So you need a healthy ego to make it in this world. What's bad about the ego is if it gets too big, and we're going to talk about that and when it might be too big and when we need to check it, right? So the ego is your friend, okay? First thing, I want you to embrace that. Next, the higher self. When people talk about the higher self, this is the divine blueprint you have when your other chakras are clear and open. This is like, I would describe the higher self really as like the 10x version of you when you've worked through the karma that's keeping you from shining your light and that reveals your authentic nature and purpose in the universe. But this is a process to realizing and manifesting it that takes lifetimes and is not necessarily something you can do right away. So, yes, you can identify with your higher self, and that's what we strive to express. But while we're here on earth, it's okay to have an ego. You're designed that way. It's okay to embrace your design, okay? It's okay. And your ego identity is the foundation of what we call then this higher self that we're talking about. The ego, if it's aligned with the higher self, gives you a healthy foundation of ability to differentiate yourself from others, to say no, to feel empowered in your identity, to create and define your future on your own terms. All right? It's the part of you that can walk into a room, share all the amazing things that you do unabashedly, and have people go, wow, that person is awesome. Robin is the shit. Rafi is amazing. You know, Nancy is amazing. It's the part of you that allows yourself to shine in that way and to own it on a physical plane. Now, the identity and the ego, here's the big thing. It's a choice. It's a construction. It's not real, okay? The ego is not real in the sense that it's not who you really are, okay? So we don't want to get hung up on thinking that our ego is who we are, right? We are divine spiritual beings beyond space and time. And your identity as a lawyer or a doctor or a healer has nothing to do with ultimately your soul, which is beyond words and beyond space and time. So think about the fact that this identity is a creation. It's a creation of your authentic self. And the problem, my friends, is that for most of us, a lot of our ego identity was created by circumstance and not deliberate. Right? For most people, the clothes they wear, who they think they are, what they think they're capable of was decided at an early age from what their parents told them, what their school teachers told them, and what they decided in their innermost thoughts. But it's all a creation. It's all up for negotiation and change. If you decide you want a new ego, you can trade out your old ego and put on a new one. And the ego is the part of you that says that maybe I am, that if you've had a problem with drugs or alcohol, that you've been a recovering addict. And maybe deep down you still find yourself as a recovering addict, not the full ego identity that you know you want and need to be for this time. Right? You can, however, go back to the foundations of the building and rebuild who you consider yourself to be. It's a process. There are steps. We're going to go through that together here. we get to reinvent ourselves, right? We get to reinvent ourselves. We get to throw away the old cloak, the old self, discard it like a dirty rag when it's time, and we get to be reborn. And this is the expression of our freedom. And I want to talk a little more about ego identity and ego creation. So here's me on the right. In my early years, this is my brother on the left and my first girlfriends in the middle. And this was, at 17, this was part, I wanted to bring this up because this is a significant point in my early development. To give you some context, I went to the same school for the first 13 years of my life. And then by 14, I had been uprooted to a new school, and I continued to have to go to new schools every year for high school. So I went to 4 different high schools in 4 years. Now, if you guys think back to high school, what happened? You got pegged as being a certain type of person if you went to the same school, right? You developed a reputation as the funny kid, the smart kid, the athletic girl, the guy who got into trouble, whatever, right? But you got an identity. You got an ego. First that you created, and then that everyone else sustained for you by seeing you that way, right? Well, for me, it wasn't the case. I actually kept switching schools, and every time I switched schools, what happened? I got to create a new perception of myself. I got to create a new identity. And by junior year, I realized I was in a giant stage play. I realized that my identity was all based on what I said to people and how I acted, and I could just shift it at will if I wanted to be seen different. So I started wearing different clothes. I started experimenting with talking different ways. I embraced that process of rebirth into a new version of me, that I didn't have to be the smart, nerdy kid anymore, which I was up until 8th grade. I was just known as the smart, likable, nerdy kid because I was really good at math. I wasn't really social. I didn't have a lot of friends. I was a dreamer, imagination. I love video games, and that was me, right? And then in high school, I started to branch out. And I started to really explore my other sides of myself. And because no one else was holding me in place from that, I was able to do it. The problem is that people also sustain your ego. And when you change your ego, people get worried. They come up to you, Janice, what's happening to you lately? I've noticed that you've really changed what you do and we're not hanging out anymore, and I'm really concerned for you. And what they're really saying is that they're concerned that you're changing your ego identity, and it scares people because it disrupts the established order. Now, I happen to believe that disrupting the established order is very important for us, especially at this time. So if it's time to make a shift of ego identity, well, what a perfect week we have. What a good week we have ahead of us. Let's talk about some other examples of how people have created an ego identity for themselves that wasn't who they were. You may know the two faces on the screen right now. Of course, on the left is internationally renowned personal development expert and perhaps the most prolific of our time, Tony Robbins. And we have Beyonce on the right. Now, you may not know this, but Tony Robbins was not always this guy that we see, big, tall, handsome, telling us how we should live, super confident dude. And if you listen to I Am Not Your Guru, a documentary about him, or if you read his books, he'll tell you he was not this guy. That Tony Robbins, Anthony created Tony Robbins. He was Anthony Gangly, goofy Anthony Robbins, and he built this personality, right? The same way you and I could build a house or put together a jigsaw puzzle. He put together this guy that we see running around on stages, changing people's lives and yelling and getting everyone all fired up. Change your life. It's my Tony Robbins imitation. So he built that himself. And because he created an identity and then acted in consistency with it, he was congruent with the identity, everyone believes him, right? Everybody buys in. This is who this guy is, right? Beyonce created a persona called Sasha Fierce. Sasha Fierce. You guys may not know this, but Beyonce at the beginning of her career was still quite shy. She had a lot of insecurities. She would describe it as, she'd said it this way. She said, I don't always feel like getting out of bed in the morning. I'd rather hide. I don't want to go to these scary photo shoots and interviews and people are going to judge me based on how pretty I look or what I say, right? because she was concerned about what other people thought, because she's human, just like we all are. But what did she do? She created an ego. She created someone in herself called Sasha Fierce, right? Sasha Fierce. And Sasha, she describes it as Sasha doesn't give a shit. Sasha doesn't care what anyone thinks. Sasha is here to go out there and dominate. And she's Sasha Fierce. Just think about that name, right? She built a persona that she embodies when she goes into the public sphere that is not necessarily who she is at home, right? Like, I don't think she's like shaking her little booty and singing and flashing her, just being the exotic, exuberant self all the time, right? She's not turned up like that all the time. Let me give you another example. Eminem. You guys know the white rapper Eminem, Marshall Mathers, right? Marshall created Slim Shady as his alter ego for his music career. So I'm bringing this up because we have the power to do the exact same thing. We can create ourselves. You can create who you want to be in this life. And you can take the old ego, once we've identified it, and you can discard it for a new one. And that is what this week is all about. Hopefully you took advantage of last week. Hopefully you really did the exercises of tuning in with what you really feel, not what you tell everyone you feel. Hopefully you tuned into joy, and maybe that joy is beginning to give you a new direction, a new sense of direction in your life. I know it has for me. Holy crap, I had a huge week. Okay, I got so clear on how I'm going to redesign what I'm doing to afford me the ability to express myself in art. And this is going to be the big thrust of my year. I went to the ballet yesterday. It totally changed my life. Anyways, I digress. So whatever you tell people, this is very key. Whatever you tell people and act congruently with, people will believe. If I go up to you and I say, hey, I'm a shitty person and I have an anger issue, and then 20 seconds later I get in a fight with somebody, that's going to confirm to you what I said, and you're going to decide Alex is a shitty person and he has an anger issue. However, if I tell you I'm a shitty person with an anger issue and I instead act very loving to you and those around me, you're going to question me. You're going to say, well, he said one thing, but he's doing another. So whatever you decide you are and whatever the story is about yourself you start to create, you have to act congruently with that. And that's the way people will believe you. You've got to walk your talk, right? Got to walk your talk. So it's not enough to say that you're a healer if the experience of being around you is not healing and you don't have that intention, right? And it's also not enough to say that, you're a warrior if the presence of being around you doesn't make people feel strong and alive. So you got to start thinking of these types of things when we create your new identity or we create the modification, because that's our exercise this week. So I want you to start thinking already, because let's review. We've realized that your ego, who you think you are, is nothing but a collection of stories. And you can shift it at any time by telling new stories and then acting congruently with them. Let's enter into this space where anything is possible. What identity would you like to be? So I want you to imagine that we've just exited ordinary reality and we're in a room of infinite white space in all directions. And that in this white space, you can choose your story, how you feel, the purpose that drives you, the values that you live by, the way you make other people feel, right down to the clothes that you choose to wear. And in this creation space, you can reinvent yourself. You can go into the cosmic changing room and emerge different person. And you won't lose anything by doing so. You will only expand on everything that you are. So let's go and review the components of ego identity so that you can see how it works and why this is so important. And whatever identity you choose, please know that any one of them is okay with me and that you are free to create yourself as you wish. To give you an identity, an example of how identity works, when you're in a bus and the bus door gets stuck and there's someone trying to come in, your identity determines if you're going to get up and get the door unjammed or if you're going to sit there. If you're just a passive consumer consumed with your own immediate satisfaction and that's your ego identity, you're not going to have the ethos that tells you to go up and get the door, right? If you, on the other hand, conceive of yourself as a superhero, you're going to automatically see the door get stuck, and the moment it gets stuck, you're going to spring into action because that's your identity, right? That's who you hold yourself to be. If you're feeling that your identity is you're worthy of love and that you are a lover, then when an opportunity for love comes along, you're going to seize it and you're going to pursue it. Versus if you tell yourself that you're not good enough or that you're not worthy of love or that you don't have the lover archetype in you, when that opportunity for love comes along, you're going to avoid it or sabotage it. But it's all a story that's first created inside of you. So this is a chance to look at the stories that we've been telling and to tell better stories about ourselves. Since, after all, life is but a stage and we are but actors for a moment of sound and fury. So let's get back to the third chakra, right? The essence of a powerful third chakra, right? The difference between people who walk into a room and shake the foundations of the room and make people listen to them and feel them, and those who don't, is they have a purpose, a driving purpose beyond first and second chakra, beyond first chakra survival. So it's not enough just to survive. It's not enough just to have your basic needs met. And it's not enough just to consume, just to have pleasure, just to have joy. It's not enough, okay? Trivial fun and survival at a certain point become not enough. And I know all of us in this program are there. And that's why, yes, we've done some good work on those chakras, but now we got to look at who are we and who are we here to be. So, first of all, this week we're going to write our own manifesto about what you value in life and how you want to show up. What do you value and how do you want to show up for people, right? Who are you? Because you know what I've realized? I'm going to just put myself out here. I've realized that for me, I do not value romance. I don't value it at this time in my life. I don't value romance, and I actually don't even value, I don't value harmony. Okay? I don't value harmony. I actually value honesty over harmony. So if there's a situation where you're with family and it's like either keep your mouth shut and have everyone have a decent time or open your mouth and risk blowout, I open my mouth. Because that's a choice that's consistent with my current identity. Right? My family knows that when I come to town or I come to dinner, we're going to have an interesting conversation. It's going to get real, and I'm not going to I'm going to speak what I believe. Okay, but that's my identity, right? And sometimes that gets me into trouble, but I've chosen and embraced that as who I am, and I love that. I love that I'm that way because I think it's interesting, and I think that false harmony is very boring, right? So, what is the identity that you're choosing? And what do you value? Do you value more harmony? And if you do, that's beautiful. Maybe you're the person who soothes everyone and puts everyone at ease and at peace so we can all get along. You know, we don't need someone stirring up the shit all the time like me, right? So what I'm saying is all the values have merit. It's just which ones are valuable to you. Is it harmony? Is it truth? Is it justice, right? Are you someone who speaks up for that? Is it beauty? You know, there's all these different values that you can assign for your life and live by. So this is a time to start creating it. You can recreate your values. And once you've got clear on your manifesto, the first part, we want to start accumulating reference experiences that anchor in that identity. So this is how we create a new identity. When you decide you want to be a doctor, you could just say you're a doctor and walk around, but usually you need to go to medical school. So you get the little badge, which is basically an ego badge that says, I'm a doctor now, right? When you want to be Now, for some of us who are in the healing arts and who are coaching and empowering, it's a little bit more nebulous because I've gotten some, I have certification in hypnosis, I have a certification in energy healing, but there's no professional body that really regulates this because it's a new field, right? It's a new field. And so we have to just step in and own who we are and our story and make it consistent with our actions and start producing results. And then everyone starts to believe you and go along with it, right? This is how it works. So once you've got your identity clear, you're going to start accumulating reference experiences that anchor it and make it real, right? And then once you do that, then we get into the fine points of how you build your identity and your ego, from the music you listen to the way you dress, to the style and the manner of your speech, and the way you move. So if you've ever wanted to reinvent yourself, this week is the week for that. And if you don't want to reinvent yourself, at least do yourself the service of getting really clear on who you are choosing to be. And stand in that identity, because when you stand in that, my friends, no one can move you, no one can shake you. You don't need any validation from anyone outside, because you know exactly who you are. And you accept all that comes with that. And then you can stop being false humility and falsely shy, and you can just be that in the world. And you become your own superhero, which I think is the most fun thing we can do here. So let's talk about building yourself up. I want to build us up. Okay, we do too much tearing ourselves down. We do too much self-criticism. Every time we do that, it takes away from us. We got to build ourselves up right now. Some of us are in the midst of major transition and changes. Some of us, I've been talking to you guys on the phone, so I know it's really alive for most of you guys in the program. Okay, and it's the time to build ourselves up. The voice that says that we're a fraud, that says that we're no good, that says that we need something external to validate ourselves is not beneficial. Instead, we're going to validate the new identity that we're creating. The more we do that, the more real it becomes. So let's talk about pink yellow. The sacral chakra, the solar plexus chakra is fed by self-love and the back of the heart chakra. So when we get to the heart, we're going to talk about the green-pink connection and how pink is the color of self-love, right? You ever notice pink girls walking around with their little pink booty shorts on, right? And those girls, what do we know? They love themselves, right? They love themselves. They can take all morning, getting ready, going out for coffee, having fun with their friends. They're just enjoying nurturing themselves. And that's a beautiful thing. In fact, I'm learning how to do this myself, okay? Pink is that color. And pink feeds yellow. Pink feeds yellow. What that means is that your ability to love yourself is very important if you're going to be confident. You've got to really develop a strong self-love to have a strong yellow. All the chakras are connected in a series of channels, and there's a pink-yellow channel, right? There's a red-green channel, there's a pink-yellow channel, there's a lot of them that we're going to go into. But pink-yellow basically is like you got to love yourself and nurture your ego identity, not tear yourself down, because the whole world's going to check you, test you, and tear you down. So if you are not your best friend, we have a problem. We have a problem. So you're going to love and nurture that part of yourself. And so let's just focus in on that right now. Every time you judge or criticize yourself, you deplete this chakra and you weaken your willpower. And that's why we cannot get into the cycle of self-judgment. Let the world teach you. Let the world show you. You're going to, I can't tell you how much feedback I've received throughout, last year or two, especially, that I've been really shining brightly since I built Spear, since I've been doing the F Serpent, is like, you get the feedback that helps you to grow from the world. You don't need to be self-critical. I know that some of you are shooting videos right now, Nancy, putting yourself out there. I know you may watch that video, you might cringe, but please don't give in to that, because just love what you are, love the journey, love the process, and you're doing amazing, right? It doesn't serve you to be super self-critical. Just go one step at a time, you'll figure it out, right? So self-love reinforces self-worth. So we're making a ruthless commitment to self-love this week, especially if you're stepping into an identity that part of you is saying, oh, well, how could you possibly be that? Right? Have you chosen something? Do you want to be something that part of you is saying you're not? That's the internal sniper that's cutting your legs out from under you. That's that part of you that's the self-judgment that we're going to remedy with self-love. Okay, we're going to remedy it with self-love. So you're going to love this new identity you're creating and affirm it daily. And by doing that, through this self-love, you will shine authentically and not from a place of proving something to the world, right? How many of you have ever had the experience where you started to talk about yourself and you felt like you needed to prove yourself? So you started overstating the achievements you've had. So you started to try and show up as somebody instead of naturally what you are. It's that authentic shine that we're going for, and that can only happen in the presence of self-love. Because when you don't love yourself, you naturally are looking for the approval of others as a substitute for your self-love. And if you love yourself, no one's opinion even matters, right? And so why do we always get into this thing where we're apologizing for our own shine, right? We're apologizing for being bright. I see this so often, right? People start to show off a little bit and then they feel they need to apologize. I used to do this. I know it so well, right? I would just feel like I was taking away from somebody else by shining, or that I was making people feel less than, or that I was bragging and making people think I was better than them. And it's really not that. Authentically, you can express the greatness that you are without having to be better than someone. And as long as you don't get sucked into comparison, it's healthy to let everyone know how you're amazing. And in the end of the day, only those who have a negative relationship to their own power, their own identity, will be offended by you when you show up and shine brightly. Does that make sense? Only people who hate their own shine will get mad at you for shining. Only people who haven't found their shine and who actually are in resistance to that possibility get upset by that. And then it's their issue, not yours. So don't take any of this personally. Now let's look at a couple examples of people who don't apologize for themselves. And I want to make a disclaimer before I flip the slide. These are not our role models, okay, for third chakra power. I'm bringing them up so you can see what it looks like when you stop apologizing. Now, many would say that these third chakras are blown out of proportion, big egos, right? Donald Trump, Kanye West, right? They don't ever apologize for themselves, okay? And that's part of the behavior I want you to model. But look at these faces. Look at these guys. Do you think they love themselves? Do you think they have a pink-yellow connection? Or do you think they're suffering? And in their suffering, they're trying to get approval and success and love from the outside world instead of getting it from the only person who actually matters. And this is easy to see with these two public figures, and we love and thank them for showing us how not to do it, because clearly it does not result in happiness, right? We got to thank them for this. And we got to commit to loving ourselves, but we can learn the good side of what they bring to us, and that is they're shameless, they stand up for themselves, they speak their mind, they don't care what people think. And how can we in our lives be a little more Kanye and a little more Trump about our dreams? Be a little more Kanye, a little more Trump about who we are, about showing the world who the hell we are, about showing the world what we're here to do, because it's freaking important, right? I've been talking to you. You guys, part of this program, have big purposes on this earth. And how can you show up a little more like these guys for yourself? Because all of you deserve it. Right? Because when you embrace your greatness, you give everyone else the permission to do the same. So I want you to step into your power. I want you to own your greatness. I'm supporting you. I'm holding you as that greatness already, right? Bunch of damn kings and queens on this call. And remember that your self-worth, your identity, affects the type of relationships you choose and opportunities you can even receive. So if you haven't set your internal identity in consistency with the type of opportunities you want to attract, what's going to happen? You're going to sabotage it. Love, the love you're looking for might stare you in the freaking face, but because you feel at an identity level that you're not the match for that, you'll push it away. The most amazing job opportunity, the most amazing financial opportunity might stare you in the face. But if you're not setting your identity up to take advantage of it, to be consistent with that, you will shoot it down without even knowing why. You know what I'm saying? Without even knowing why. I've done this too many times, right? Beautiful girl will be up there. She'll be everything. This happened to me several times. Everything I was looking for. And because I thought I wasn't worthy, because I thought I still needed to freaking become something, that there's no way she would be interested in me. Right? So you're only going to attract the relationships and opportunities consistent with your identity. So what is your identity? Are you the damn superhero? Or are you the victim who's still trying to get their shit together? Right? What is it? You are that powerful that you can choose. So let's review the concepts around healthy third chakra power. Lives in integrity. Okay? So whatever you decide about your identity and your values, you got to stick to it. Stick to your guns until it's time to change, because you got to live with that. And the more you live in integrity with that, the more what you have, the more power you have. When you walk into a room and someone is there who has been living their life in integrity, you feel it. It resonates through their whole being. When people encountered Gandhi, they said, he wasn't like the most vocal dude, but everything he said resonated so deeply because it was consistent for him. There wasn't a difference between Gandhi on stage and Gandhi in his, one-on-one. It was the same dude, and he believed in the same thing. So that's part of why he was so powerful. But for a lot of us, we say one thing when we're out there, and then when we're in our intimate home life, it's like different. So we really got to line up all the pieces to be in integrity with what our core is. Okay, this is huge. This is huge, huge, huge. We keep promises to ourselves and others. And I don't even want to talk about keeping promises to others, because most of us are just fine in that department. It's keeping promises to ourselves. I'm talking to me here, but I did a review on this. I just recently reread the beginning of a book called The Speed of Trust, and they talk about integrity and promises to yourself being the first way to develop a powerful sense of integrity. And I looked at myself and I did the audit. They have a really fun little audit exercise that I can upload for you guys. And it basically showed me how I was breaking promises to myself. Because of that, there was a lack of certain self-respect and belief in my power that I was creating. Right? So look at the promises you're making to yourself. What have you been telling yourself you're going to do this year? And then look at honestly what is happening. And realize that if you want to feel the empowered identity of a third chakra, you've got to stay consistent with what you say. And don't make those commitments lightly. Like I'm learning to stop saying I'm going to do this or that or this or that, like at all, and if I'm not 100% about it. Like if I just think I should start going to the gym or whatever, like I'm not going to say I commit to it yet, because a commitment to you should be as unbreakable as, it should be your everything. You should stake your life on your commitment of your word. So don't say you're going to do things if you're not really ready. Okay, big lesson I'm learning right now. This is, like I say, we're both going through this journey. This is not just, I'm showing the way. I'm also going through this with you guys. So we got to keep our promises to ourselves. Now, if we are aligned with our mission, right? If the identity you build this week, and we're going to write a little manifesto. I've got the action guide for you guys. You guys are going to answer these questions and write out who you're going to be and show up as. If you're lined up with that, we don't give a damn what anyone says about us. We do not care. We do not freaking care, because what we think of ourselves and our own consistency with our mission matters more than anyone else's opinion, because nobody else is us. No one else can possibly understand all that we've gone through. And so it doesn't matter what they think. It does not freaking matter. So don't worry what anyone thinks of you. If you're on your mission, if you're aligned with who you want to be, it doesn't matter. Okay? You can learn from criticism. You can take something from it. You can get feedback and say, maybe I'm going to change a little something next time. Maybe I'm going to tweak the way I went about that. Maybe I didn't go about that in the right way, but I'm not going to question myself. Hashtag Kanye West, bruh. So let's diagnose this. What are the beliefs you've been holding around your identity and personal power? How has the identity you've been telling yourself you are has been affecting your personal power? Right? How have you really been seeing yourself? Where's that solar plexus at? And let's use this as a diagnosis. If it's closed, you're going to feel aimless in life, unable to keep promises to yourself or to others. You're going to be choked by the fear of criticism and rejection. If this is healthy, you'll have clarity of who you are and why you're here. Your life will have a purpose beyond just getting by. You'll have a contribution to make to the world and something bigger you're doing, bigger you're a part of. You'll have a strong willpower. You won't just give up easily. You fight through things, right? And you have a healthy sense of who you are. Identity. And if it's blown open, hashtag Kanye Donald, you're self-assured, you're opinionated, and you're focused on positivity, and you're prideful, right? No one likes that. And most of all, it's not good for ourselves. Because Kanye and Daniel have prevented probably a lot of people from actually, being close to them and feeling connected to them. Right? So, I think you all have a sense of what we're talking about now. And let's go ahead and close our eyes. Again, being sure feet are flat on the floor, spine up and down. Take a deep breath into your solar plexus. Setting the intention for the arrival of our divine, empowered identity. Letting go. Another breath in. Letting go of all old stories, anything that keeps us from creating with limitless possibility. Letting go. Breathing in. Filling ourselves with the power of God to create reality. Breathing in. Imagining the joyful life of our true identity that we want to live and experience. Breathing in, connecting to ourselves and to our image we want to be in this world. The image and the values that we choose to represent, that we choose to have on our hearts. Letting go. Breathing in, seeing yourself unstoppable, knowing that no one can stop you. And aligning yourself with the identity you most want to experience in this life. Seeing a glowing gold yellow moving through the stomach area with each breath. And in this fire, burning up all that no longer serves you, all the old stories, all the hesitations. Unapologetically you. And loving and nurturing this you that's being created. Loving and seeing and supporting it in its sensitive beginnings. Seeing it grow stronger. Taking root in who you are. In your root chakra. Connecting to the joy and the feeling of what it feels like to be the brightest you. And embracing it. Full self-love. And that showing up as the brightest you is the biggest contribution to this world you can make. It's the ultimate gift that you are here to give. When you're ready, open your eyes. Let's talk about what we're going to do next. As we've said, homework is 30 minutes per day. And ask yourself at this point in the program, have you been putting in the time to do the work? Did you go dancing? Have you gone to the gym? Have you been taking the time to do affirmations and to work with your energy? If you don't put in the time, you will not get the result. Right? And this is very, very crucial week. Your action items are to write your manifesto, to write down what your third chakra is going to hold and believe about yourself. Like, you're going to write your own personal 10 commandments, your own Bible, if you will, about what it means to be you, what it means to be Fabiola or Nancy or Janice or Robin, to write down the nuances of it in the sense of what are your values, to get even more clear about it, about how you relate and deal with power, how you express power. How are you going to live when all these different situations approach you? How do you want to show up when there's someone you're attracted to? How do you want to show up when there's a business opportunity, when there's a client in front of you? How do you want to be? Because we create that here and it will manifest out there, right? You're going to select your theme music. Okay, you're going to pick your theme music. You're going to pick your pump-up song that anchors in the state of who you want to be and is connected to that identity. And if you don't have one, it's time for you to go looking for one. It's time to go and find one. Because with NLP, what we can do is we can anchor in a state and an identity. If you find a theme song, every time that theme song plays, it's going to remind you of who you've told yourself you are going to be. And I have one. I've had one for a long time. All right? And it helps me to get into state. Sometimes I don't feel like being F Serpent. I don't feel like making a course or telling and showing how this goes. I just want to, I feel unworthy sometimes when those thoughts come into me. And when that theme song hits, boom, I move into state and I'm in go mode and nothing's stopping me. But sometimes you got to get into state, and that's what this is for. So first, write your manifesto. Second, select your theme music. Third, develop your persona. Okay, this can be fun. We're playing cosmic dress up right now. You get to design yourself, all right? Maybe you've been dressing in a way not consistent with who you want to show up as. And maybe you've been judging yourself and saying, well, I don't want to be superficial and worry about that. But listen, people judge, okay? And we judge ourselves. And when you step in as that role that you want to play, your superhero self, you'll feel it. And you'll show up differently because of it. You'll let yourself access levels of your personal power that you normally don't have access to. So we're going to develop your persona. We're going to design your outfits. We're going to even think about how you walk and how you talk to people, right? Be sure that all of those things are consistent with the identity that you really want to be. And finally, we got affirmations. Some simple affirmations you guys can do that will help to anchor this in, that are connected to a healthy third. Right? I'm proud of my achievements. I honor myself. I choose healthy relationships. I am authentic. I direct my own life. Ain't nobody telling me what to do. Ain't nobody gonna tell me how to live. I will follow my own deepest convictions the day I die. So I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. You all are going to get the action guides that are following this. And let's step deeper into our empowered identities this week. All right, we can proceed to chat in the Facebook group. I love you guys, and I will talk to you soon. Au revoir, my friends.